Hey, good morning. Let's all stand together. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. You guys are looking like you're ready to clap this morning, so we will sing, sing, sing. Yeah. Joy to the world. Oh, we sing to God. We'll sing, sing, sing. Yeah. Joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, repeat, repeat the sounding joy. And we will sing, sing, sing. Joy to the world. We will sing, sing, sing. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove, while glories of his righteousness and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders, wonders of his love. Oh, we will sing, sing, sing. Yeah. Joy to the world. We will sing, sing, sing. Yes, we will. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, oh Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before thee, opening to the sun. Joy to the world, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before thee, opening to the sun above.
Good morning, ZPC. My name is Karen Elliott, and I have the pleasure of sharing the announcements this morning. We want to welcome those of you that are here in the sanctuary, and we also want to welcome those that have joined us via the live stream this morning. The first thing that we'd also like to share is that we are so glad you're here, and if you would, there's a QR code on the front of the seat in front of you. If you would scan that, let us know that you're here. And also, that is the way that you can access our bulletin that has a lot of information in there regarding all of the things that are going on during this Advent season. So if you would please scan that, and you can see what's going on in the bulletin. And now what we'd like to share is a video regarding the Shepherd Tote program that we have.
Hey, Jenny, can you believe that it is already Christmas season?
It is already Christmas season. I can't even believe it. I can't believe we're doing Shepherd Totes again.
I know, I can't either, but I'm excited. We've done Shepherd Totes for years and years and years, right?
Yes.
I don't know how many years?
At least 100.
And we just wanted to let people know that we're doing them again this year, right?
Yes, we are doing them. It's going to look a little bit different this year because of COVID, just like everything else. So we're shooting for 100 boxes. We know that they still have a need down there and possibly even more of a need than they usually have because a lot of the kids aren't in school. So yeah, we're shooting for 100 boxes. We are not selling boxes in the gathering space due to COVID, and we're just going to collect food there and have 2 packaging sessions on the 6th and the 13th.
Okay, great. And so is there another way if people don't want to fill boxes?
Sure. So people who aren't doing any shopping right now can just donate to the ZPC. You can write a check and put totes in the memo, or you can text ZPC totes to 73256.
Okay, great. So ZPC, we know you've always been such a generous congregation, and we are excited about filling 100 totes for Shepherd this year.
Thank you, ZPC.
Bye, ZPC.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Sally. So that is one way that you can get involved and help give back during the Christmas season. And there is another way as well, and that is we are also doing an offering through the CAM Adopt a Family program. And again, there's information in your bulletin regarding that program. We also want to let you know that on December 20th, we have a fun event that will be hosted by our Next Gen Ministries, and it is called Back to Bethlehem. We are asking everyone, if you can attend, please pre-register for that so that we know how many people will be there, and it will be a blast. So we do want to encourage everyone to attend if you can, please. Then finally, everyone has been so generous during this difficult time, and we want to let you know we appreciate that so very much. And if you would like to give while you are here, we do have boxes in the back, or you can give online or send the check in the mail. So again, we very much appreciate your generosity. And now, as part of the Advent season, what we'd like to do is introduce the Woods family, who will have Emma Kate, and she will light our candle this morning. Thank you.
In that day, the root of Jesse, who shall stand as a signal for the peoples, of him shall the nations inquire, and his resting place shall be glorious. Isaiah 11:10. Peace. Shalom. Are we able to sit still long enough to experience peace? Are we taking pause throughout our days to know that God is God and that thankfully we are not? Do we believe the words of Jesus? Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. God incarnate, Emmanuel, God is with us, Jesus, he is our peace. And because Jesus gives us peace, we must receive it. Receive his peace today. Peace, shalom. As we light this candle of peace, let us abide in that peace so we can share that peace with the world around us. For the earth shall be full of knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Isaiah 11:9.
Do you feel the world is broken? We do. Do you feel the shadows deepen? We do. Do you know that all the dark won't stop the light from getting through? We do. Do you wish that you could see it all made new? Is all creation groaning? Is a new creation coming? Is the glory of the Lord to be the light within our midst? Is it good that we remind ourselves of it? Is anyone worthy? Is anyone whole? Is anyone able to break the seal and open the scroll? The Lion of Judah, who conquered the grave. He is David's root and the Lamb who died to ransom the slave. Is he worthy? Is he worthy of all blessing and honor and glory? Is he worthy of this? Does the Father truly love us? Does the Spirit move among us? And does Jesus, our Messiah, hold forever those he loves? Does our God intend to dwell again with us? Is anyone worthy? Is anyone whole? Is anyone able to break the seal and open the scroll? The Lion of Judah conquered the grave. He is David's root and the Lamb who died to ransom the slave. From every people and tribe, every nation and tongue, he has made us a kingdom of priests to God, to reign with his Son. Is he worthy? Is he worthy of all blessing and honor and glory? Is he worthy? Is he worthy? Is he worthy of this? He is, he is, he is, he is worthy. He is worthy of all blessing and honor and glory. He is worthy of this. He is. Oh, behold, the mystery now unfolds. See the star shine on the virgin foretold. Angels singing light up the sky. Hope rings out in a newborn's cry. Swing wide, you ancient gates, for Christ is born today. Prepare him room, prepare him room, that the King promise has come to be. Yes, the one the prophets were longing to see. In the darkness, a blazing light, to the hungry, the words of life. His kingdom now is near, for those with ears to hear. Prepare him room, prepare him room, that the King of glory enter in. Prepare him room, prepare him room, that the King of glory enter in. Oh, our hearts as busy as Bethlehem. Hear him knock, but don't say there's no room in the inn. Through the cradle, cross, and grave, see the love of God displayed. Now is risen and he reigns. Praise the name above all names. Prepare him room, prepare him room, let the King of glory enter in. Prepare him room, prepare him room, let the King of glory enter in. Let the King of glory enter in.
Let us continue in worship by praying to God. Let us pray. Most loving God, we sing again of your praise for us, and we do believe, God, that we can come to you as Messiah this season. We can ask the question, is he worthy? And God, we can answer, you are worthy of our praise. In this Advent season, we trust and believe that you are Emmanuel, God with us. Despite uncertainty around us, you are there. Despite the sickness that is in the world, you are still with us. And despite the sadness over the things that we have missed or lost this year, God, you are there. We believe that you are the God who says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Lord, where we need your rest, give us rest. We believe that we have new life in you, O God. So send us your Spirit again on this day to guide us. As we read in Isaiah, you give us a spirit of wisdom and of counsel. God, guide us and hear our prayers through your Spirit today. As we continue to read in Isaiah, we ask that you help us to find peace today and in the days and weeks ahead. You are the Prince of Peace who gives a deep peace, a shalom, God, a peace that passes all understanding. May you show and give us new life in the stumps in our lives, that we may see you growing in us and through us, so that we may find hope and peace in you. This season is a reminder that we need each other, that we need you, and God, that people around us have needs that we can pray for. God, just recently in the past 2 weeks or so, we have heard of several families ZPC families who are dealing with COVID. God, we ask that you help them and bring healing to them. God, some of them that may be worshiping with us at home right now. We pray for those who are dealing with stress and anxiety and other illnesses in their lives. And in our own church family, we lift up these specific prayers. We ask that you bring continued healing, and for those even this week who need that. We pray for Ada Canal and Al Baker, for Dan Duke, for Troy and Regina Franks, and God, for those who have lost loved ones, for Bob Tibbetts in the loss of his brother, and last week for Sandy and Cindy Lange in the loss of Sandy's mom, Alex. God, what a joy and a privilege it is to pray together. And so we pray as Jesus taught his disciples, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Thank you, Scott. And it is good to be here with you on this second Sunday of Advent, and what a blessing it is. Thank you, Scott, for preaching last week on the first Sunday and doing a great job with that. And good to be here with you all and with those who are watching us from home. You know, it's been kind of fun. This past week, I saw a map with little dots from people across the United States who are watching us. It's amazing and kind of creepy what you can find out about people. And but how fascinating that in this strange period of COVID, we've actually been able to, in many ways, kind of extend well beyond where we had before this message of the good news of the gospel. So thank you for all those who are doing such hard work with helping us to live stream. And hopefully most of you got the message or the video that we sent out midweek, but I want to, if you didn't, or even if you did, I want to remind you we are doing some different things for this particular Christmas Eve. So a couple of things that we're doing differently. One, we are going to have a recorded service. So if you are going to be at home, or if you're not comfortable being around anyone, by all means, we will have a recorded service. It'll have the kind of your favorites of David Ackerman singing "Oh Holy Night," and me coming up and awkwardly saying something afterwards about how much the sermon's going to be horrible compared to his singing. I always have to do something because he does such a remarkable job, and so that's going to be fantastic. So you can do that. The other thing we're going to do is we are going to have an outdoor service on Christmas Eve. How awesome is that? I appreciate that. Even if you don't really think so, I appreciate your clapping anyways. You know, I think that there's real power in kind of leaning into the oddity of this whole season, and I think to kind of do something outdoors. You know, we're going to make it, the service will be a little shorter. It'll only be about an hour and a half, and I'm just kidding. It'll be about 30, 35 minutes. If it's really cold, it may be about 15 minutes. If it's in the 50s, we may go a couple hours. So it's going to be, but we will make sure that it's somewhat succinct, and so I'm really excited about this. And so the good news is we did this for about 4 months, the outdoor worship, so we kind of know the drill, right? We have Jim Pichter bringing in his the trailer, so that'll be great. And people out in those spaces, so I invite you to come and to invite other folks who want to come and just kind of experience it. It's good. We'll be able to actually sing, and so that will be wonderful. So just to keep in mind that for Christmas Eve. But now we're continuing during Advent. We'll be looking at the book of Isaiah, and so today we're going to be looking at Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 through 10. So I invite you to hear these words. A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. And the wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put its hand on the adder's den. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain. For the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. And on that day, the root of Jesse shall stand as a signal to the peoples. The nations shall inquire of him, and his dwelling shall be glorious. Sisters and brothers in Christ, this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Let's pray. God, we do pray that you would be with us in this Advent season. As different as it may be, Lord, it is also a remarkable reminder that the season of Advent is about the season of waiting. And so we pray that you would help us to wait. But not just wait, Lord, but wait with expectancy, knowing that the one who has come before is the one who will come again. And I pray, Lord, that the words of my mouth and meditation of all of our hearts will be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen and amen. So one of the gifts of Isaiah, it seems to me, which is a book I really like, is that it has an incredible amount of images, just image after image after image. And I think that images are really powerful things, right? And we know that they are. Otherwise, companies like Disney wouldn't sue your pants off if you have any kind of image that looks like theirs that is on your own stuff, right? Anything that looks like a mouse or anything that looks like a dog like Pluto, or I wasn't sure earlier if Goofy was really a dog or not. Do you guys think that Goofy, is he a dog? It's very strange. Anyway, so because images have this way, right, of capturing our imaginations. They're multifaceted. They can be used in lots of different ways. And they have a way of engaging not just the intellect, like words often do, but even the heart. And so throughout Isaiah, right, we'll see different images. One of the most famous, of course, is the valley of dry bones, right, that then come to life and form, an army, or when he has this hot coal that's touched to his lips, and then all of his sins are forgiven. There's lots of images. In our particular passage, there's several images, right? You have a stump. You have a shoot coming out of the stump. You have a belt of righteousness. You have the lion and lamb, lying down together. You've got a bear and a cow that are eating with one another and not eating one another. You've got this child who's playing over the hole where a snake at any moment might just pop up. Right? It's a very kind of powerful imagery. And the thing about images as well is that you can kind of keep going with them, right? Like I was thinking this week about that image of the child over there by this hole where this asp could come up at any moment. And I was thinking, what you want to do is you just want to go out there, don't you? You want to scream, you want to tell the kid get away, you want to run, right? But then in this kind of image, you sense this invisible hand holding you back, and then maybe the snake comes up and it begins to kind of slide up the child, but then it just gives it like a little kiss on the cheek and it kind of slithers away. I made up most of that, but that's what imagination does, and that's what an image does, right? You can really kind of run with it. It has this incredible power. You don't forget images nearly as easily as you forget words. And I think one of the images that to me has always been incredibly powerful in the book of Isaiah, and particularly in this passage, is the image of the stump. The stump is just this very poignant image for me. The stump for Isaiah was the stump of Jesse, right? So in other words, it used to be this beautiful tree, a tree of King David, right? And when you had the beautiful tree of King David, that family tree, there was tons of promise, tons of hope. Everything was going well. There was abundance and wisdom, and God was shining upon his people, and his people were shining upon God, and they were able to be successful, and everything was wonderful. But then scholars think more than likely when Isaiah is kind of prophesying there, when he's seeing these images, when he's describing them, is in the 8th century when the Assyrians came in and just kind of razed everything, if you will. And the Israelites were no longer in charge. They were slaughtered. They were enslaved. It was a Holocaust, some have described that season of Israel's life. So the stump becomes then this powerful symbol of death and destruction, of brokenness and sin, of desperation and hopelessness. See, that's the thing about the image of a stump, which is that it's not just that it's a reminder of something, it's also a reminder of what used to be, right? When it was flourishing. I was talking to my sister. She lives in this kind of bigger neighborhood with lots of houses, and there's a property managing company that oversees it all. And a little while back now, there was a neighbor a few houses down, I think, who had a car, and a tree branch came down and crashed on top of it. And the neighbor had already kind of tried to get the property company apparently to kind of, to do something about it. She was worried. So they got sued. And so what do you think the property company did after they got sued for this? They started chopping some trees down. So they began to chop down tree after tree after tree, right? And my sister, not surprisingly, was really kind of bothered by this, right? And so she was telling me about it. I actually had her send me a picture of one of the tree trunks, and you can see it, and you could tell this was no small sapling, right? This was a robust tree. And here's the thing. My sister has this great place, actually, if anyone's curious. It sits right on the Chesapeake Bay there. You can see it in the background. And she goes for a walk every day. And here's the thing. Every day when she goes for a walk, guess what happens? Guess what she sees? She sees this stump, right? So that not only then is it that day when they were chopping things down that she felt that pain, every single day she is reminded of what once was. Every single day she is reminded of this incredibly beautiful and flourishing tree that was once there and that is no longer there. The Israelites, it's not like there was just one day when the Assyrians kind of came in and then all of a sudden the tree went back up together and everything was fine, right? No. It was there, and it was a continual reminder of the fact that destruction was continuing to be the case. There was no going back. It wasn't just that things were bad. It was that they could remember how good things once were. Because death and destruction and brokenness and pain aren't just there for a moment. I was thinking about this. My mother recently digitized some of our old family videos, and I didn't even know we actually had these family videos, and they come from even before I was born, so, a long time ago. I didn't even know they had videos back then, quite frankly, and so they did, though, and so I was sitting there watching them, but it seems to me for the first time, not long ago, and there's, little, fat baby Jerry, and I almost said Jesus, no, it's not the same thing. So there he is, and crawling around, and it was fun. It was fun to kind of see that and be like, wow, we were living just outside New Orleans, and so all the '70s trends that were really big mustaches. It was really a great era, and then there was my sister, 4 years my senior, so 4 years old, running around. And then there was my dad, and there he was, and I could see him, and he was like playing with me. Obviously, I don't remember that, I was a baby, and seeing that, and it was wonderful. It was great. But if I'm honest, there was also a bit of me as I watched that was kind of taken back, because here's what I realized is that in 10 years, this kind of beautiful family tree that was going on right then was going to be a stump. And I don't think I'm being melodramatic, just to say, you know what, as soon as my parents got a divorce, everything changed. It wasn't this kind of beautiful, flourishing tree anymore. It was this kind of smoldering stump. And there I was, 36 years later, as I watched this. And I felt both the joy of seeing myself with my dad, but I also felt that pain. And that's what happens with the stump, right? Most of us experience this in one way or another. Maybe it's the loss of a job, and you love this job. It was a great job, and you no longer had the job for whatever reason. And now every once in a while, or maybe even every day, you drive by the building where you used to work. And every time you do, you remember immediately the feelings of that stump. Or maybe we see this a lot during Thanksgiving and Christmas. especially if you've lost a loved one during the previous year, but sometimes even years later, and you go and you go through the motions, you do the same thing, but if you're honest, it's not quite the same. That there's always this sense of this death or this sadness or this brokenness that's there. You want it to be the same, but you have to admit there's some kind of stump that is right there. So Isaiah is giving words to the destruction and the pain that the Israelites were feeling. He's saying, oh, I know you feel it now, and you remember what used to be. But of course, a part of the genius of the image of the stump is one of the things that we discover about stumps is that they are not easily removed. You don't get rid of a stump very quickly. When I was in high school, I had a neighbor about 3 houses down, and he saw me as a strapping young man, and I made most of that up, but I just picture that in my head. And he said, hey, do you want to make some money? And I'm like, well, yeah, I want to make some money. He's like, all right. He goes, I got some stumps over here I need removed. He had about 2 acres of land, and there was a lot of stumps. And I was like, all right. He's like, well, I'm not going to pay you per hour. He's like, I'm going to pay you per stump. And I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. It's going to be the fastest, easiest money I've ever made. I think it took about 6 minutes for me to realize what a fool I was. Because I went over and, there was no machine, mind you, no sticks of dynamite. There was a shovel, an axe, a saw, and this thing called a come-along, which I didn't even know what that was before then. And if you've ever taken out a stump, you just start digging, right? And there's all of these roots. Who knew they had so many roots? And then you kind of get down, and then you try to saw it a little bit, or you try to chop it. But then when the hole starts getting bigger, you can't really pull back. So it's like you're like, and you're not doing anything, and then you're just trying to saw, and the saw gets stuck. And then when you get enough, then you tie the chain to the bottom of the stump, and then you would tie the chain back to another tree, and you start cranking it, whatever it's called, and it begins to pull. And every once in a while, you'll hear this beautiful, I can still hear it now, the sound of a pop. And you had a root down, right? You pulled out at least one root, and you're like, woo! And then you look, and you realize you got about 80 more, right? And so you just keep going. It's absolutely a nightmare, right? It's just brutal. And what I realized, right, is in the midst of that, is that stumps are not easily removed. There's a reason why my sister in her neighborhood still has so many stumps. There's a reason why my neighbor in Florida still has a lot of stumps at his house, which is that it's a whole lot easier to chop a tree down than it is to get rid of a stump. It was a whole lot easier for the Assyrians to just come in and raze everything for Israel than it was for them to slowly begin to rebuild. Most of us know that with our own brokenness or pain, whatever that may be. I'm always amazed at how many of us, myself included, that there was a quick little comment at some point, sometimes decades before, when someone said something to you or about the way that you looked, and that even decades later, you have never forgotten. They said it in a sentence, maybe just a few words, and it lasts to this day. There's so many examples that we have of this, even the example of racism. I mean, the Civil War ended over 150 years ago. And so in one sense, wow, that's great, we moved on. Oh no, the stump of racism continues to be rampant in our culture. All of these things that happen in a moment, and you think, oh, that must be done. And yet, we are not quickly able to get past them. A tree is chopped down in minutes, but the stumps, more often than not, last for year after year after year. And so one of the questions then that I wanted to ask this week is exactly what do we do then with these stumps? What do we do with these real stumps? Stumps that we see, stumps that remind us of what used to be, stumps that continue to bring us some sense of pain. And so I was interested to see exactly what Isaiah said to them. What did Isaiah say to the Israelites as they're sitting there, as they're writhing in pain, as they're seeing the destruction, as they're remembering what used to be, as they can't kind of go on? Isaiah could have said to them, well, you should just keep running through. Just run through this valley of dry stumps and just act like nothing's there. Which, of course, when you do that, you would just trip again and again and again, making very little progress. Or he could have told them, you know what, just close your eyes, just plug your ears, sing happy, campy songs, eat and drink and entertain yourselves, and just act like there is no stump. But he doesn't do that either. What does Isaiah do? Isaiah takes this image of a stump, and he says, here's the thing that you need to know, Israel, is that life is going to come out of that very place of destruction and pain and death, because there is a shoot, he says, a sapling that is coming out of this stump of Jesse. It's this incredible reminder that what Isaiah is saying is that God loves to turn what is death into life, to what was dark into light, to what was hopeless into hope. That God doesn't say, oh, let's just act like those stumps aren't there, or hey, let's just, keep running through and just kind of, make the best of it. God says, no. Right there, that's where I am going to make life happen. We see it throughout Scripture. In chaos that was all around us, God made creation. The valley of dry bones, as we've already said, all of a sudden there's life. Jesus in his ministry, as he heals people physically, emotionally, spiritually, as he himself is raised from the dead, as Paul talks about the fact that what is old is gone and what is new is begun, but it's the same person, and all of a sudden there's this new life that the God of Israel, as Michael Chan says, the God of Israel is the one who works in the midst of death to bring life. And that rather than thinking if we can just simply get past all these stumps, and that rather than trying to spend all of this energy acting as if they aren't there so that we eat and we drink and we entertain ourselves so that we don't have to think about those stumps, rather than trying to take all the energy of trying to get rid of all of them, rather God says, no, right there in the middle of it, that's where life is going to be found. I've been reading this devotional by Father Jacques Philippe, and he has this French quote that I'm going to share with you. No, not really, but we do translate it. But here's what it says. I want you to think about this. He says, if we seek peace as the world gives it, if we expect peace in accordance with the reasoning of the world or with the motivations that accord with the current mentality that surrounds us, here's what I want you to pay attention to. If you are looking for peace simply because everything is going well, or because you aren't experiencing any annoyances, or because all of your desires are completely satisfied, then it is certain that we will never know peace, or that our peace will be extremely fragile and of short duration. What is Father Jacques Philippe saying? He's saying this, that if you think that peace will finally happen, joy will finally happen, hope will finally occur to you when you have no more stumps in your life, or when you have made all those stumps right, he says you will never find it. And if you do, it will last but for a few seconds. But rather, he says, what our call is, as we see with Isaiah, is to be able to begin to discern where there is life, where others might only see death. And I think that our culture is hungry for a group of people who see life and light and hope where everyone else sees only death and destruction. I have this analogy. I don't know if it works or not, but I think it does. I think it's really important as followers of Jesus to always pay attention to culture around you, to pay attention to what is really attracting culture around you, the people around you, because oftentimes it speaks to something deep within. I was thinking about this last weekend during Thanksgiving weekend. We watched a lot of the show Hometown. I don't know how many of you know that show on HGTV, but I'd only watched like one or two before that, but it's very much like all these other popular shows, right? What are the shows? Property Brothers, Fixer Upper, right? Isn't that the Chip and Joanna Gaines one? Good Bones is the one right here in Indianapolis and hometown, right? And they're very popular, and it's always the exact same thing. What happens? You have this house, right? And usually it's just a pit. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's old. It's broken down. It stinks. It's a stump of a house, right? And they bring in people, and Ben and Aaron are the two people here on Hometown, and they bring in, and the people who are thinking about buying the house, usually it's always like, oh, this place is disgusting. Boo. You can't do anything with this place. It's the worst. And Ben and Aaron, they come in and they're like, oh, yeah. There is life in these bones. And bit by bit and dollar by dollar, by the time the hour is over, all of a sudden you have this incredible after, right? And it's like, whoa, no way. And they'll show the before and they'll show the after, and it's like, woo, how do they do it, right? Now, here's what's interesting. You could easily do a show just on new homes, right? You could do a show where there's just this flat land and nothing's ever been built there. There's nothing there, and it would be a whole lot easier and probably cheaper. You could do that, and there's a couple of those shows, but they are not nearly as popular as the shows that when the people go in and they turn something that is disgusting and old and without hope into life. And I mean, you could watch it for hours, right? I mean, Meg and I were there, and I was like, okay, this has got to be the last one, right? And they show the newly renovated one. And I'm like, babe, we have been here for like 12 hours at least, right? And so you're like, all right, this is the last one, all right. And all of a sudden then, because of course they're good, they move right into the next show, and you see this next old place, and you're like, there's no way they'll be able to do anything with that. And by that point, you're like, well, we've already watched for 12 hours. What's 13, really? And so you get sucked in, right? This is what I'm suggesting. The world loves to be able to see hope brought out of desperate places. And the call of us as followers of Jesus is to come alongside people and to say, look, I know you think that divorce, that brokenness, that job loss, that death, I know you think that is the end, but I am here to tell you that if we keep looking, if we keep paying attention, we will begin to see new life. It doesn't mean that there's not pain. It doesn't mean that you ignore those stumps, but it does mean that even in the very midst of it is where the God of Israel loves to work. I just need one amen. God loves to work in the stumps of our lives. And we, as a people of Jesus, are called to come alongside people just like those people from those TV shows and to say, oh no, I see hope. But before we get to that place, I think there's something else that we must do. As I said, the second part of this passage is full of images, right? The lion running down with the lamb, the bear and I can't even remember, other wild animals, the cow, that's right, eating together, kids and snakes. It's all this wonderful imagery, and one of the questions, of course, that preachers are always asking is, well, what do we do with this, right? We got to make this work somehow. What are we supposed to do? And so I was reading that all this week, and there was one commentator who caused me to pause. His name was Stan Mast, and he said, now here's the thing, preachers. He said, you are going to be tempted to see this and to tell people to use this as a rallying cry for the congregation. Here is the peaceable kingdom. That's what we call this kingdom. Here is this wonderful thing. Now let's all get up and let's go make this thing happen. And he says, no. That is not what this passage is about. Is there scripture that talks about doing justice and loving mercy and walking humbly with your God? Absolutely. Does Jesus tell us to go and to care for the widow and the orphan, to do things to try to help this kingdom come? Absolutely. But he says if you want to take this scripture seriously, you have to also just say that's not the cause, that's not the point of this passage. And it brings up something that's very critical for us, which is that we create space in our lives Not to always be doing, but instead to simply be being and to be reflecting and focusing on what is to come. See, here's the thing. The gospel of Jesus, it's the same, but it looks different oftentimes depending upon the community. If this was a community of people who were really, they just sat around and they were just very contemplative all the time and they were just always reflecting and that's just what they did, then more than likely I would be a pastor who would be like, all right, that's good, guys, but you got to actually engage in something as well. Let's go get them. Come on. We can't just sit there all the time. There's maybe a few of you for whom that's the case, but for most of us here, it's like, okay, what are we going to do? Let's go, come on, we can do something, let's go, which is why, of course, I have said, okay, we are going to be spending 40 days, 15 minutes, just simply meditating. That is so that we will slow down. Because a part of our call, as we look at this passage, I think, is to simply be still and to remember a couple of things. Remember first that the one who brings God's kingdom is this child whom we understand to be Jesus. In other words, while we certainly play a role, ultimately it is God and only God who is going to bring his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Because one of the things that does, I'm convinced, if you sit there and just reflect on that, you will begin to feel yourself begin to exhale. Because it is so easy to see what is going on in our world, to realize that there are things that we need to do to try to make it better, that we just then begin to think, this must be up to me, or I don't know how it's ever going to happen. And there is a genius of being able to just be still and remember the kingdom that God is going to bring on earth as it is in heaven. So one of my challenges to you, the only challenge to you this week, is not for you to take extra time, but it's to take 5 minutes of the 15 minutes that I've challenged you to take and to spend it simply imagining what this new kingdom is going to look like. You might just imagine exactly what Isaiah, if that's easiest for you, you can just sit there and think about that. Or perhaps there's even something more. Perhaps in your life there is a stump that is in your life, and maybe it's simply asking, what does that look like if that is made whole? If you're artistic, I am not, but if you are, maybe you want to draw it, maybe you want to paint it, maybe you want to make a craft of it, I don't care. But just what is something that you can do that engages you in the image of saying, this is what the peaceable kingdom looks like. I finished this sermon earlier this week, and it was already kind of planning on doing this. When I was talking to a ZPC, or after that, actually, it's, I think, kind of providential, and we were talking about meditation, and she said, she just said, again, unsolicited, she was like, you know what, I've been spending some of my time, she has a family member who has been battling a disease for, I think, more than 20 years, and she said, you know what, I've been just kind of spending a few minutes of this meditation time just reflecting on what it would look like for him to be made whole. What would it look like for him to be rid of that disease? And I think that's the kind of thing that I think we are called to do. To spend time, as this passage says, the Israelites needed to know. They needed to know that the stump was not all there is. They needed to know that that there was a leaf, there was a sapling, there was growth that was there. And they needed to take the time to cultivate that imagination. Not just to work towards it, but to imagine God's kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. And so this week I was talking to Jason earlier in the week, and I said, you know what? He had this song. I said, this is a beautiful song. Let's sing this and let's practice this. So here's my practice for us this morning. As they sing this song of peace, I want to encourage you to just close your eyes. And I want you to just spend 5 minutes, probably about the length of this song, just imagining, what does the peaceable kingdom look like to you? Not how are we going to get there? How is it going to happen? What do I need to do to make that happen? But just simply imagining God's coming kingdom.
My mind is like a battlefield, and my heart is overcome by fear. My hope seems like a ship that's lost at sea. My enemies on every side, I'm tempted to run and hide. Your gentle whisper reaches out to me. Peace holds me when I'm broken. Sweet peace that passes understanding. When the whole wide world is crashing down, I fall to my knees and breathe in your peace. Fiery arrows whistling, the terror of the night sets in, but I can hear your angels all around. I am resting underneath the shelter of your mighty wings. Your promises are where my hope is found. Peace holds me when I'm broken. Sweet peace that passes understanding. When the whole wide world is crashing down, I fall to my knees and breathe in your peace. I remember who you are. You're the God who's never far, and I will not be afraid. God, you always keep me safe in your arms. I remember who you are. You're the God who's never far, so I will not be afraid. God, you always keep me safe. Oh, you keep me safe. Peace holds me when I'm broken. Sweet peace passes understanding. When the whole wide world is crashing down, I fall to my knees and breathe your peace.
Please stand. know that we are doers. And I know that the Lord calls us without question, as I said, to come alongside people, to help them to see life and light where they perhaps see only death and darkness. But I was remembering these people like Ben and Aaron and the way that they would go in. And what I'm convinced of is it wasn't like they just woke up one day and all of a sudden they could see these old stump of houses and see how they could come to life. That it had to be cultivated day after day after day after day. And as they did so, their imaginations began to grow. And as their imaginations for what could be out of this old stump began to grow, then they were able to do more. Then others were able to come alongside. I know that in my own life, I had particular people who spoke into it. So that in those moments, in those days, as I was talking about the divorce, they were able to see places where what I had gone through, where there was going to be life and light and hope that could come out of those moments. And because they came alongside and were able to help me to see where there can be light and hope, where perhaps I only saw death and a stump, all of a sudden, things begin to change. Sisters and brothers, this week, imagine God's peaceable kingdom. And as He works through you and as your imagination grows, might you then be able to see the shoot coming out of whatever stump is before you. And so may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with each and every one of you this day and until Jesus returns and brings that peaceable kingdom with Him. Hallelujah. Amen. Amen.